The morning sun rose over the dusty plains of Arizona, painting the horizon in strokes of gold and red. The air shimmered with heat even before noon, and the land lay quiet, too quiet. Inside that silence, a single rancher worked his land alone. His name was Eli Turner, a man known more for his silence than his words. Years of drought and hardship had carved lines on his face, but his heart still held the stubborn kindness of a man who remembered what mercy meant. Eli was checking the fence near the southern ridge when he spotted something strange in the sand, a trail of blood. His hand went straight to the revolver at his hip, eyes narrowing as he followed the marks. A few yards later he found the source, a young native man, half collapsed beside a dry creek bed. His chest rose weakly, blood staining his shoulder and his breath ragged. The man's horse lay nearby, already gone cold. For a moment Eli just stood there. The wars between settlers and tribes had left deep scars in these lands. Helping a wounded native could mean inviting danger or death. But as he looked down at the man's face, pale and trembling, he didn't see an enemy. He saw a soul on the edge of life. Without a word, Eli dropped to his knees, uncorked his canteen and lifted the man's head gently. "Easy now," he whispered. "Drink slow." The water trickled down the native's cracked lips, and for the first time his eyes fluttered open. They were sharp, dark, filled with confusion and gratitude. Eli carried him back to the ranch, laid him on the old cot in the barn, and tended to the wound as best he could. He didn't know much about medicine, but he knew how to stop bleeding and how to keep a man alive. All night he kept the lantern burning, watching over the stranger. By dawn the young man stirred and spoke a few broken English words. "You, good man?" Eli gave a small smile. "Just doing what's right." Before leaving, the native touched his chest and said, "Tawa, my name, Tawa." Then, with surprising strength, he mounted a borrowed horse and rode off toward the horizon. Eli stood by the fence watching him go, wondering if he'd ever see him again. The day passed quiet again, and Eli returned to his chores, brushing the strange memory off as another act of decency in a cruel world. But as the evening wind began to rise, he felt a strange weight in the air, a stillness, as if the earth itself was holding its breath. When he looked up toward the ridge, his heart froze. From the far hills came a sound like thunder, not from the sky, but from hundreds of horses. Dust rose in a cloud, and through it rode an entire tribe of native warriors, painted, armed, and moving fast toward his ranch. Eli stood frozen by the barn, the wind whipping his hat as he realized what might be coming. He had helped one man, but now it looked like the whole tribe had come for him. The sun blazed high when the first of the riders reached Eli's land. The sound of hoofbeats grew, louder until the ground trembled beneath his boots. In front rode an older chief, tall and proud, his chest marked with paint, feathers flowing from his hair. Behind him stretched dozens of warriors, all silent, all watching the lone rancher standing before them. Eli didn't move. He had no rifle in his hand, no hatchet to raise, just the courage of a man who had nothing to hide. The chief dismounted slowly, his piercing eyes studying Eli from head to toe. After a long silence, he spoke in a calm, commanding tone. "You give water to my son." Eli blinked, realizing the truth. Tawa was the chief's boy. "Yes," Eli said simply. "He was hurt. I couldn't just leave him there." The chief looked away for a moment, scanning the horizon, then turned back. Many white men would have left him to die. Eli met his gaze. "I ain't most men." A tense stillness filled the air. Warriors shifted, hands near their bows. Eli could almost hear the seconds ticking by like hammers in his chest. Then the chief raised his hand, and every warrior lowered their weapon. "You showed kindness when the desert showed none," the chief said. "For that we give peace to your land." Eli didn't understand what he meant until he saw a group of women and young braves dismount and start unloading bundles of food, water skins and handmade blankets. They placed them carefully at the ranch gate. It wasn't an attack. It was a gift. Eli stepped forward, humbled and wordless. "You don't have to," the chief interrupted. "You gave life. We give thanks." For a long moment, they simply stood facing each other, two men from worlds that rarely met in peace, now bound by a single act of mercy. When the tribe finally rode away, the dust trailed behind them like smoke from an old legend. Eli watched until the last horse disappeared into the red horizon. The gifts remained at his feet, a reminder that kindness, in any language, always finds its way home. That night, Eli sat on his porch under a sky full of stars, thinking of how one simple act had bridged a gap wider than any canyon. The desert was quiet again, but it didn't feel empty anymore. Somewhere out there, he knew Tawa and his people rode under the same stars, carrying respect instead of revenge. He took a deep breath and smiled to himself. Guess doing right still counts for something, he muttered softly. If you believe kindness still matters, even in a world this wild, hit that like button and subscribe for more powerful cowboy tales. Every story we share keeps the spirit of the Old West alive.